Welcome back to Electrified Reviews. Today, we're going to be checking out the Lectric XP Step-Through 3.0, which, from this point on in the review, we'll just call the 3.0 because I've got a word count to stick to, and that would be half of it. Besides being a mouthful to say, it is one of the improved versions of arguably one of the most popular e-bikes the last few years, the Lectric XP. Now, the Step-Through features a 500-watt motor, front suspension, and it folds up into a nice little package. So let's find out what this thing's all about. And before we jump into the review, I just want to let you know we have relaunched electrifiedreviews.com. You can head over there and compare the 3.0 against some of the other bikes that we've reviewed. You can also comment, engage with the community, and we're running some giveaways. So if you like free e-bikes, head over to electrifiedreviews.com. Let's get into it. The 3.0 comes in at a price of $1,000, meaning that it is on the lower end of the affordable category. It is a Class 3 e-bike, so it can reach speeds up to 28 miles per hour, and this is something that would be comfortable riding around in the neighborhood, hitting some light trails, things like that. We do have the suspension front fork, which we'll get into a little bit later, so just know that this is a bike that could be used for a lot of different situations. Next, let's talk about the motor. The motor we have here is a 500-watt Lectric branded motor. It is rear hub, so it has about 55 Newton meters of torque to it. Now, we don't have a torque sensor here in the shop to just throw this thing on and test out what the torque is. It feels like 55, maybe even a little bit more. If I had to guess, I probably would have put it around the 65 mark, but the literature says it's 55, so we're reporting it as 55. Next, let's talk about the battery. The battery we have here is lockable and removable. This is a 500 watt-hour battery, meaning you should be able to get anywhere between 25 to 35 miles. Now, you might be able to get a little bit more than that, depending on your weight and the terrain and what pedal assist level you have it in. But I think most people should be able to get 25 to 30 miles pretty easily on this bike. Next, let's talk about the frame. One of the cool things about the 3.0 is we do have this welded-on rack, meaning that we do have a higher carrying capacity than maybe one of those bolt-on racks that we're used to seeing on e-bikes at this price. It's a very approachable bike. It has a standover height of about 19 inches, so most people should be able to make that, and it has a reach of 20 inches, meaning that most people should be able to reach that. Now, the bike weighs in at about 64 pounds, which is pretty much on par, maybe even a little bit on the lighter side of what you'd expect for a bike that is this size, and this thing could easily carry 300 plus pounds total weight. The bike has a very upright riding position, so if you're somebody who has lower back issues, this is something that's going to feel very comfortable. And of course, it is folding. The folding here is simple. It's easy. If you've ever folded an e-bike before, this will be just on par with pretty much anything that you've experienced. Next, let's talk about the suspension. Now, when Lectric first came out, I remember one of the things that most people wanted to see was front suspension, and so it's nice that as they've sort of developed this line, they've started to add suspension to their bikes. Up on the front of the 3.0, we've got these Lectric branded front forks. They have about 50 millimeters of travel, which isn't an insane amount of travel. This is not something that's meant to be, going off of, steep curbs or, logs, things like that, but it is going to absorb a lot of the road fuel. And if you've ever ridden a bike without suspension, every little bit helps, and here the ride was, very comfortable. We were going over, several different types of terrains on the bikes, and it handled it all really well. Now, these are by no means intense, amazing, front fork suspensions, but when you look at the price point and you look at the fact that we do have suspension, it's pretty awesome. Next, let's talk about the brakes. So the brakes we have here are Tektro mechanical brakes with 180 millimeter rotors. Now, this is probably the only point of the review that I would say this is a spot I think that they could improve some. Now, when you have a bike that weighs, 65 pounds and is going up to speeds that are almost 30 miles an hour, you're gonna want hydraulic brakes. Now, if this was gonna be something I was gonna purchase, I was gonna use it long term, I would definitely upgrade that. And I would like to see Lectric offer this as an option on their bikes. I'd rather pay an extra 100, even 150 bucks, markup on getting hydraulic brakes than use mechanical brakes for a long period of time. Now, for some bikes, in some instances, this is fine. For some bikes, in some instances, even V-brakes are okay. But on a bike like this, that's going to be used, in a variety of different scenarios at different speeds, I would like to see hydraulic brakes here for sure. Now, that being said, the mechanical brakes, they worked well, they functioned well. It's more of a personal opinion that, I'd like to see hydraulic brakes. Next, let's talk about the drivetrain. The gearing setup here is very simple, very easy to use, very straightforward, which is, pretty much exactly what we would expect from Lectric. The 3.0 is a 7-speed e-bike, meaning we have, 7 different gears we can choose from, depending on if we're, going fast on a flat surface or we're going up a hill. You can change your gears to make your riding experience a little bit better. Up in the front, we have got a Shimano SIS index shifter, which is, again, something that's very intuitive, very easy to use, and it is a little bit more on the cheaper side, but again, looking at the price point, this is sort of exactly what I would expect to see here. Now, the Shimano SIS index shifter is connected back here to the Shimano tourney derailleur. Now, it's wonderful to see Shimano parts on the bike in general. Sometimes with some of these cheaper bikes, we'll see some off-name brands, and they don't have any track record in the industry. So the fact that we're getting name brand parts on here is nice to see. Next, let's talk about some of the extras here. As I mentioned, we do have this welded-on rack, which is an excellent upgrade over a bolt-on rack, so that's nice to see. We've got integrated front and rear lights, which is awesome to see at this price point. A lot of bikes that we've seen around here, they'll have an integrated front light, but maybe the rear light's not integrated. So it is cool that we have that functionality built into the 3.0. The other nice thing about this bike at this price point is we do get a full set of fenders. Now, some people might take those off. They might like the look of, non-fenders, but if you've ever ridden in more of a dirt terrain with and without fenders, you would know that it's wonderful to see fenders here and at least give people the option to keep those fenders on and keep themselves a little bit cleaner than they would normally be. So who is this bike for? That's usually the question most people ask is, will this bike do X? Will this bike do Y? And so this part of the review, we're basically just going to look at this bike, look at what it's capable of, and then we can theorize on who might be the best customer for this particular bike. Since it folds, we're kind of already talking about somebody who has limited space, or maybe they want to easily throw this in the back of like an SUV, which, as an SUV, you probably could fit a full-size bike, but the fact that, you can fold it up, fit 2 of them in the back of an SUV is pretty awesome. So it's for somebody who is already thinking about wanting that capabilities. The fact that it is a step-through means that it's more approachable to more people. So if you're somebody that has knee problems, back problems, and getting over a high step can be an issue, then having something that's approachable like this is going to be a big bonus. Now, since we have these 20 by 3-inch tires on here with sort of a hybrid tread, they're not too crazy aggressive and they're not street tires. This thing could handle some, decently off-road dirt trails, things like that. So I would picture this would be a really good RV bike, right? So you could store it somewhere in the RV. It's not taking up a full space. You don't have to put it on a bike rack in the back and worry about, losing it on Highway 1 or something like that. And then when you get to, a state park or someplace similar, you could pop this thing off. You could go down some dirt trails. You could ride on the concrete very comfortably. So I think that this bike is a little bit geared towards those people that want something that's comfortable to ride around on, but, if they have the one-off dirt trail or some crushed gravel, things like that, this bike can handle it and handle it really well. All right, guys, we've covered a lot of the specs here, and the next question we usually get is, well, how does it feel to ride? And that is what the ride test is all about, so let's head outside for the ride test. All right, guys, welcome out to the ride test for the Lectric XP 3.0 step-through. This part is all about the ride feel, so let's just go ahead and start riding. We got the half twist, half grip. We got the halvesies over here, doing what the halvesies do. And the nice thing is you do have access to the full power no matter what level of pedal assist you're on. So even if we're in 1, but if you go to 0, it's going to turn off, which is nice. It's a nice safety feature to have. So if you have somebody who's messing around in it for the first time, they're not going to, throw it into a wall or an expensive car or something like that. So if you wanted to get on, sort of experience the ride feel, they can do that, and they don't have to have access to the power if you put the pedal assist level at 0. But yeah, this thing is kicking. Well, that's not going to work. Let's go up to pedal assist level 5 here. Now, the Lectric does ship in Class 2 mode, so we're only going to be getting up to that 20 miles per hour. But you can tell as you're riding, like, oh, it's got a lot of get up and go. It will accelerate up to 20 and kind of stop. So when you see people like David Brand New or any of those other sweet guys, any of those other people who I'm friends with, they, they'll go, 28, 29, 31. But that's on some downhills. We don't have any downhills like that here to test that on. Now, I've got the seat a little bit lower than probably I would want for a perfect, go ahead and brake there. Now, the XP does come with mechanical brakes, just one of those cost saving measures Lectric takes so they can produce some bikes for not very much money. Now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lower the seat down. I'll pop over here. Let's pop this up as high as it goes. Now that's a weird machine, but let's ride it. Every time I get one of these with the giraffe stems, I'll probably have to put this up a bit. There you go. You gotta ride around like this. I probably wouldn't choose to ride this around all the time like this, but it is kind of fun if you just want to, throw back, get one of your turtle shell top hat helmets and just cruise around. But let's talk about the ride feel, right? Let's not talk about what you can do. Now, I'll probably end up, let's go ahead and do a braking test here. Let's go up and put it in a reasonable spot. Probably put the seat up about like that. Probably put this down about like that. And now we're off. And the kickstand's it's always good to put the kickstand up before you take off. That's just a PSA for you. Now this is a really good riding position for me, and this is actually fairly comfortable. So I'm getting a good leg extension. I've got a good reach right here. And I think for the most part, this is probably would be how I would leave it. This was gonna be my everyday rider. Going through a little bit of mud and water here, but lucky for us, it's got a full set of fenders on it, so no worries. Now we're going up a slight incline here, kind of trying to put in just a little bit of effort, and yeah, it takes that like a champ. There's another good spot. Let's see if we can locking out those mechanical brakes here. Now we're doing a little off-roading, so we do have some small shocks up here in the front. Nothing crazy, but it does do a good job of absorbing a lot of that road. I was gonna say road noise, but that's not really it. A lot of that road feel, a lot of those vibrations. All right, let's go ahead and put this in just a lower gear here. Nice easy shifting. Let's go up this hill. Oh yeah, super easy. Now I know some of you guys are hearing me say hill, and then you're looking at that and going like, that's not a hill, boy. And that's fair, and I think I know that. But there are very few places around here where we can test it on sort of a hill or like a real incline. But there are certain spots that are, fairly steep. So you can get a good feel for what it would be capable of doing. And like that one, it's a pretty decent grade. It's not very long, but I'm barely putting any effort into it, and the motor's taking me right up there. So even though this isn't, the most powerful motor you can get, it is gonna do the work. And I'm about 220, actually like exactly 220 now. So that is maybe a good representation of what it could do with, 220 pounds. If you're a little bit smaller, you get something on the rack back here. You got some, some fish. People haul around fish on bikes. Maybe a backpack. That's probably a little bit more applicable to more people that watch this video. But either way, you throw some stuff on the back, you're 180, that's 40. This thing should be able to handle hills pretty well. Pop up over here. Oh, how's it going? Now we want to do a real hill test, so make sure I can have battery to do this. Because if I went to go do this, we got 8% left. Let's do a real test, okay? Now this is gonna be wet, so this is gonna be something. Let's see here. Just so you guys know, I do this for you, okay? Got pulses level 5. Find the dry spot to go down and come back up. Let's kind of do an angle this way. Okay, so this is, again, not very big, and you probably can't tell how long or steep this is on the GoPro, those fisheye lenses and stuff, but this is fairly steep, so I'm gonna go down here. Try not to die. Oh God, like that. A little too much brake and it's a little too wet. All right, so now we're down here. And just give it some nice easy pedaling on the way up. Oh yeah, it's cruising. Yeah, I probably could have done Probably could have done a hill 3 or 4 times as long as that. So yeah, for others you guys out there wondering, you know, does it handle hills? Again, you guys know my limitations as far as testing goes. It does seem like it handles hills fairly well, which is, you know, a lot of people's questions. A lot of people get these bikes because they're in places where they have hills and things like that to worry about. Here in Houston, Texas, we do not. We also say that word that way. So, all right, guys, I think that's gonna do it for the ride test. If you guys have any questions about Lectric, ask them. Don't ask me. No, I'm just kidding. You can ask me. And I love talking to you guys, and we'll catch you on the next one. And that is going to do it for our review of the Lectric XP Step Through 3.0. Used its proper name there for the outro. If you guys want to know more about Lectric, we'll have a link to them somewhere. If you guys got any questions for us, let us know down in the comments. I love talking to you guys, and we'll catch you on the next one.